board to allow this application, have you done any investigation into whether or not there will be available water to do this?
This will not be something that we could do on an annual basis. The flows on the Big Sioux simply aren't there. All we're asking is that we have the opportunity, or that we're able to avail ourselves of the situation that occurs when there is water. If we look at 2007, I said, a really wet year. We didn't really see any water level rise. However, the Big Sioux was sufficiently high that if we could have opened those gates, we could have brought that water level up. And that's all we're asking, just still to bring that water level up, to back up to that level of the spill, which was where it would have been naturally in the first place.
So at the time that we're requesting to be able to take some of that water from the Big Sioux River, would the taking of that water hurt or damage anybody else's water rights downstream?
No. The quantity of water that we're asking for is very small in comparison to the actual flow in the Big Sioux.
And now you mentioned bringing the water up to a normal level, or the sill level. What's the definition of where that water level is at that 1 foot below the sill level?
Okay, the sill level is at 1850.5. The 18. So
16.
18. Okay, yeah, I'm sorry. 1650. Thank you. 1650.5 feet above mean sea level is the sill level. The structure is interesting in that the top of the structure, or the top of the gates, are at 1659. And that was intentionally designed that way because 1659 is the 100-year flood. That is, you'd expect to see this flood occur once every 100 years. And the flood control structure will protect in a situation up to that 100-year flood. Now, that's why I talk about these unique events where you get an exceedance of the 100-year flood. There's really nothing one can do from an engineering standpoint to prevent water from moving in to Lake Poncet. Those are situations that are simply acts of God that we cannot control, and there's really no way to protect the lake or the structure, and we'd be looking at significant flood damage at that situation. But that's, like I said, 1 in 100. So we've got the top of the structure at 1659, and the bottom, or the sill, is at 1650.0, which is about the natural outlet.
And what's the ordinary high water mark for Lake Poncet?
Okay, the ordinary high water mark was established for Lake Poncet, and I believe, right here in 1973. And it was established at 1651.5, which is, the ordinary high water mark is 1 foot above the sill plate, or 1650.5. The ordinary high water mark represents a couple of things. First of all, it represents the property ownership between public lands, state lands, if you will, for the lake, and private property for an owner who has a cottage or a cabin or a house. That marks the property line. The ordinary high mark is established by the state. The ordinary high water mark generally represents a water level which is an average. It's an average water level. So we would expect on a longer term basis to see that level exceeded about 50% of the time. So going back and reading through the application for the ordinary high water mark, that's essentially what the state did in determining that. They have a procedure. There's also a very legalese procedure, which I really don't quite understand, based on court cases for ordinary high water mark. But from my standpoint, it's the average water level. It's the average water level that one would expect to see.
So if the lake were maintained or allowed to exist at a level near the ordinary high water mark, would that be an unnatural water level?
That would be the natural water level. It should be, and based on the conditions when they went out in 1973, and based on their field observations and based on water level measurements, that was about the average natural water level that was existing on the lake.
So if the water levels of Lake Poncet were to maintain or stay at a level that was consistent with the sill level of the FC5 structure, would that be an unnatural level?
No, that is the natural level of the lake. It's going to be in there. And keep in mind, before we had the structure put in, water was allowed naturally from the Big Sioux River to flow up the inlet channel, raise the lake level, probably above, slightly above the ordinary high water mark on those wetter years, and then that water level would decline back down, but it would stay right around the 1650, because at that point water would cease to flow back into. So you had this sort of dynamic range, but the dynamic range was in a couple of feet between 1650.5 and maybe 1652, someplace in there. That would have been the normal lake level that one would see.
So was the sill level of FC5, was that determined based off of the high water mark?
That, the sill level, there's a lot of discussion in the literature and correspondence concerning that, but that was approximately the natural level of the lake where it discharged. The natural stream bottom where it came in or out was about 1650.5.
And to go back to some of the areas that you were touching on a little bit earlier, just what exactly was the original purpose of FC5?
That's interesting.
Are you about done with Conquest, or I know the quarter's been at it for about 2 hours?
We'd be more than willing to take a break at this point.
I would agree with that. If I have anything to say.
One of the rare few benefits of being acting chairman is I get to say when to take a break. And rather than saying 10 minutes, I'm going to say 15, but I really mean 15 minutes.